is, as I mentioned, a clean auditor's opinion. So what that means is we set a materiality each year. For this prior year, 2020, it was $500,000 for the municipality. However, that doesn't mean we only look at transactions over $500,000. Every transaction that flows through the municipality is eligible for statistical sampling. So we look at taxation revenue, we look at other revenues such as development charges, recreation, things like that. And then we look at purchases and then payroll as well. So we cycle through all of those transaction cycles and make sure that the internal controls that you as council would like to see in place are there. And having seen that, it is a clean auditor's opinion. So we'll move forward to the statement of financial position. So this is really your balance sheet, and significant improvements to this balance sheet. As those of you who have been on council for a few years, you'll see some really good things happening here. So I always go to that net financial asset line about 3/4 of the way down the page. So last year it was just under 9 million. This year it's 20 million. And so that means that's the amount of cash you would have in the bank if everyone paid you what they owe you and you paid off all of your liabilities. A couple reasons for that significant increase. One is you've paid down that capital loan with Infrastructure Ontario. You'll see last year it was 13 million. This year it's 9 million. And again, I'm just rounding these numbers. As well, your development charges have increased in their in that amount that it has been collected by developers for future development. And so that number was 11 million deficit. It's now at 7 million. So an increase there of about 4 million as well. Coming down to that, and then there's some other smaller things, but those are the two main items. And then underneath that line, so the first thing I'm looking at is financial stability. So you show that in that net financial assets line. Underneath that line are your non-financial assets. So those are the assets you have to have in place to provide the services you do, things like roadways, water, wastewater services. And as you can see, you have maintained, so I add the tangible capital assets together with the capital work in progress, which is simply, excuse me, capital assets that the projects are not fully completed yet, so we haven't started to amortize them. At the end of 2019, you had just under 229 million, and at the end of 2020, you have 230 million. So what that means is we take the assets and then we start amortizing them over the life of those assets, and each year your amortization is approximately $7 million. So you have replaced those assets above and beyond that amortization, which is really that using up of the assets. And in doing so, you have not taken out any new long-term debt. So you'll see your long-term debt is decreasing as well. When we get to the notes to the financial statement and the breakdown of the reserves, you'll see that we have actually increased our reserve balances as well significantly. So we've replaced our capital assets, we've kept our financial stability, and we have not taken out any new long-term debt. So all good indicators of that stability that I've been mentioning. Any questions on that statement at all?
I don't see any hands, Christine.
Okay, great. So we'll move forward to the next statement. This is your statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So 3 columns here. We have the budget for 2020, what you actually spent and received in 2020, and then the comparative with actual for 2019. And I'll remind council when we get to the expenditure piece that we do not budget for that $7 million amortization that I mentioned. So it looks like you're $5 million overspent on your total expenditures, and that simply isn't the case, because if you take the 7 million of amortization that's in that total expenditures number of 28 million, you're actually spent 21 million outside of amortization under budget. And as you know, that there was a surplus of just over $2 million this year, and that really is where it's come from. And then that line underneath, that excess operating revenue over expenditures before others, so that's your revenues minus your expenditures for operations only, is another indicator. So that's what your operating surplus would be, and you'll see that 4.8 million last year and just over 6 million this year. So again, good trends going in the right direction. The items under that, so those other items are items related to capital and are not part of your operating surplus. So those are financing those capital asset additions that we mentioned before, majority of which would be DCs as well. We did assume a couple subdivisions, and we assume those assets. And when we assume those, we also recognize them as a developer contribution at that line. That's 6.6 million. I can answer any questions if you have any specific line items. Most of them are fairly consistent, but happy to answer any questions on any of those lines.
Not seeing any.
Don't make this too easy on me. All right, we'll keep moving ahead then. And if something comes up as we're going and it's on the previous page, please don't hesitate to stop me. So this is the statement of cash flows. This just shows the increases, and decreases of the non-cash items on the balance sheet. And again, acquisition of new capital assets and long-term debt is really the key large numbers that are going on here in these financial statements, which is the case given the growth you're experiencing. Coming down at the end of the year, the net cash balance, so that's your cash less that operating capital loan of 33 million. And this next statement is one that I just want to spend a little bit of time on, just so that sort of the numbers are clear. So this is your revenue, and then we're showing what has happened in those capital assets. And again, they're the biggest dollar item, obviously, of your budget and of these financial statements because of that. So you'll see the amortization of tangible capital assets there, that's 7.3 million. That's that using up, and I'm saying that we need to keep replacing assets at least that level. And then we had a decrease in work in progress, but an increase in tangible capital assets. So if you take the 15 million minus that 6 million, you're just over $8 million of new assets. And so that's where you've got the 8 million of new assets, the amortization of 7.3. So you're replacing assets at least your amortization rate. So that's just a good summary page of those facts. Then we get to the notes to the financial statements. Most of these are standard notes that will appear in any municipality's financial statements in the province of Ontario, well, actually Canada, because we follow Canadian standards. I will mention a couple notes that I think are of interest to council. So if you'd like to turn to note 7, which is on my page 11. You'll see there, these are the breakdowns of that deferred revenue, and this is where you can see that development charges. So as you know, we borrowed against future development in order to provide the services that we are providing, and you can see there's been a significant improvement there. It was 13 million at the end of last year and just under 9 million this year. And that development charges explains that little paragraph afterwards. It just explains what you're doing, that you're borrowing from future development. The next note is your long-term debt. And as you can see, they're all decreasing, and we didn't take out any new debt this year. So that's note number 8. And then note number 9 is really the one that I think council probably is most interested in. So this just breaks down that accumulated surplus. And as I mentioned, so you didn't take out new debt, you replaced your assets, you maintained your financial cash flow. And then if you look at this, you'll see your reserve funds increase from 25 million to 35 million. There's a couple reasons for that. It's a significant increase, obviously. A couple reasons for that. There was a general surplus, as we mentioned, of about 2 million this year, just over 2 million. But in addition, both the water, wastewater, and storm, as you can imagine in COVID, and I'm seeing this throughout the province of Ontario and my municipal audits, more people were at home, therefore more people were using water waste services, therefore you had larger surpluses in those systems. Those surpluses don't affect your tax rate. They're maintained within their own reserve funds to be used on those systems. But of that $10 million increase, about just over 4 million relates to those services. Note 10 is on that Ontario Infrastructure and Lands capital loan that I talked about, and during the year you paid over 3.5 million, again improving your cash flow there, or your net cash flow I should say. And other than that, I don't have a lot of comments on the notes. Note number 18 is just a required note with regards to COVID, that obviously you've had to follow the provincial orders on what facilities can and cannot be open, and that during the year you received 397,200 of COVID funding under the Safe Restart program. At the back of the statements are two schedules. One is the breakdown of the tangible capital assets, and as you can see, total cost of the assets of 341 million. So very large numbers, obviously, and of that amount, over probably about 60–70% of those assets are in your what I call linear assets, so roads, water, wastewater, and storm. And then the last schedule is your schedule, a segmented schedule, and all that means is when we file the FIR with the province of Ontario, it is filed based on these functions, and so this schedule takes the financial statements into the format that goes into the province with the FIR. So just showing your revenues and expenditures by functions, which are common to the municipalities in Ontario under the FIR program. I know those are a lot of numbers to look at, but I hopefully any questions at all, I'm happy to facilitate.
Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Christine. Is there any areas of concern at all for you that when going through everything, do you see any area where we need to look at and improve on?
No, I do want to give a shout out to your Treasury staff, corporate services. It's just, as you can imagine, with the amount of growth going on and all the related problems that brings, good and bad, that they have managed it very well. One of the concerns I had was how large the work in progress was getting in the past, but we've brought that down about half of what it was last year. So that means projects that are started that aren't finished, and then we start more projects. Well, what we're doing now is getting those projects that were started, finished, completely financed, and then moving on, which is great. And that was, I really have nothing else to say. Your staff, anything I even mentioned about, maybe we could do it this way or that way, they're on it, and they're always very willing to make any changes immediately. So thanks to Tiffany. I know she's probably in behind the scenes somewhere. I just want to thank her and her staff, because it's not easy doing an audit in COVID, as you can imagine, and your staff do an excellent job of facilitating us.
Other questions?
Yeah, just I do a follow-up, please.
Yes.
I'm not sure, Christine, if you can answer this or not, but sometimes when you get a municipality that's in pretty good shape, applying for grants or things to the government, that hinders us. Do you see us in that position where, when we apply for a grant or something to build something, that we may be kind of pushed to the bottom of the pile because of our financial status and how we're doing things?
That's a good question. You certainly have experienced some good, I think of the Wellness Center, you got some good funding there. There really is not, other than in recreation area, there really is not a lot of funding out there above and beyond. And so you'd have to ask, I can't speak to that. I don't know what goes on in the decision-making process at the province level.
Yeah, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I was just going to ask you a question about your experience with other municipal audits, and I take comfort in what you're saying. It gives me, it's not going to keep me up at night. This piece is having a clean audit report with the numbers that you've reported is comforting for me. But I'm just wondering too about some of the difficulties maybe other municipalities have experienced that you've seen, or do you have any comment on anything that might be an issue. I mean, we've got projects that were parked from last year that will have to be started up and so on. Is there anything that we should be aware of or we should keep our eye on, or no?
No, I don't see anything at all. Like I said, I was watching the projects and they are getting cleaned up. They are getting finished. They're getting moved forward. And, you know, any municipality that's experiencing the kind of growth you are always has challenges. There's no doubt about it. And we all know that water, wastewater services cost a lot of money and there's not any funding really out there. And that's always a concern, but it's a good problem to have. Trust me.
All right. Well, we appreciate your efforts, and I know it couldn't have been easy for you to do the audit virtually, and this is now what, year 2 where you've had a which
Just
means
so
that
you know, though, we did attend the offices. We still find it help. A lot of places are, a lot of auditors are not. We find it very helpful too, because it's the only way you really get a flavor for what's happening on scene. The controls are in place. You know, people can tell you controls are in place. You need to see it and visualize it, and you get a flavor for the municipality for sure. And your staff do an amazing job.
Yes, and so I'll give a shout out to them as well. It's good to hear that everyone's doing their thing, and I think we get our answers. We get answers to our questions. So I think council usually has a good comfort level with everything. It's always good to hear an outside third party say so as well. So we appreciate your time, Christine, and on your efforts this year, and we'll look forward to next time.
All right. Good night, everyone. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Next, we have to move to the adoption of the minutes. The motion before us is that the minutes of the Middlesex Centre Council meeting held on June 9th be adopted as printed. Do I have
a motion for that audit?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just eager to move on. I have to ask for a motion for the item we just saw, and that is that the 2020 audited financial statements for the municipality of Middlesex Centre be approved. And Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Arts, is anyone opposed? Nope, that is carried then. Thank you so much. And now I'll move to the minutes of June 9th. Could I have a mover and a seconder that those are adopted as printed, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Heffernan. Any opposed? And those are carried as well. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have a number of items. What was it? 7.7 through 7. Yeah. These are the ones that are routine and may require discussion, but no action on our part. So I'm just going to ask, is there anybody who wants to ask anything on any of these items? Any questions at all? Councillor Arts.
Through your mayor, it's not more of a question, but maybe an observation. I'm on that Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority now, and it's a learning curve. It's kind of like starting council all over again from day one. But these new regulations coming in, it's going to get it's going to get downloaded to us. Like, I can see where all the municipalities are going to have it's going to be an increase. So that's just my own observation. Thank you.
All righty. Any other items here that anyone would like to comment on or ask about? Seeing none, then we have motions for all of them.
We do. We only have the motion should be that item 7.1 through 7.7.
7. Yeah. So I'm going to ask for a mover or seconder that the items listed on our consent agenda 7.1 through 7.7 be received as printed. And that'll be Councillor Scott and Councillor Heffernan. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, then those are carried. Alrighty, moving on to staff reports. Item 8.1 is the community safety and well-being plan and adoption of that. If I could have, our CAO is going to present that report. The floor is yours, Michael, if you'd like to take that away.
Great. Thank you, Mayor DeVete. Through the mayor to members of council, Report 8.1 is in regards to information that's been brought forward originally that came about in 2019 when the province enacted legislation through the Police Services Act, which then made a requirement that municipalities had to adopt a community well-being safety plan. And so reports were brought forward in 2019 and again last year, talking about the progress and how we would go about implementing such plan. So tonight's report is to bring you that information in the plan that's now been developed and is ready for implementation. As I originally reported in 2020, the game plan that we took was that this is something that we could do collaboratively with other municipalities, with the county and our lower tier counterparts. And so throughout last year and into this year, we came together numerous times, and it consisted of the administrators along with representatives and stakeholders from the county. And we were able to work together and develop a plan that would meet all of us, all of our sizes. And so before you on the agenda is the plan that consists of 4 distinct core areas. And they involve health, housing and homelessness, quality of life, and public safety. And under each of those 4 buckets is a number of initiatives that are indicated as a result of the stakeholder reach out that was conducted throughout 2021 and in the last year. So in moving forward, this is a plan that we are going to work on together, and we're going to continue to work through our partnerships. And in my analysis and recommendation to council, in order for us to achieve some of these initiatives, we'll be doing it either through items that we're taking on as a municipality or through collaboration with the county. As you'll note and as you'll see in this well-being plan, many of the initiatives are through upper tier jurisdiction. And so this is a plan that is over encompassing, and it's one where we would stick together and work together on trying to accomplish some of these initiatives over the next 5-year period. The working group will stay together, and we are looking at how we're going to go about putting a work plan in place so that we can go about now achieving some of these overall goals. Some will already be accomplished, or some that I can assure you can be done successfully at our level through our strategic plan that's been recently implemented. For example, the Vision Zero initiative that we've got ongoing. So there are some initiatives that as a municipality we can take on. There's others that we have to work on with our stakeholders, like crime safety, where we would then reach out to our police that overtake our policing for our communities. And so this plan, for it to be successful is going to include a lot of dialogue, a lot of liaison, and just relationship building. And I'm confident that we'll be able to achieve many of these initiatives over the next 5-year duration. In closing, the plan will be submitted by the deadline that's required by the ministry. And so should council approve it, the clerk will then go ahead and file it accordingly so that we will fulfill our obligation as a municipality.
Thank you for that. I'll turn to council now for questions on the plan. Any comments, observations? Councillor Heffernan.
Yes, I was reading the plan, and it pretty much covers a lot of things, so I'm happy with it. I just have a question, and I'm not sure if this would go through our official plan or if this is something you can look at through this plan. The affordable housing, as I understand it, affordable housing is sort of set at, it says 20% of all housing is supposed to be affordable. And I think the affordable definition is the average income of a municipality. Is that correct? Okay. So I'm just wondering, so if the average income, which in this municipality is fairly high, what happens to the people that are a lot lower, like that make up the lower part of the average? They're the ones right now that are struggling to find housing. And I'm just wondering, will this plan kind of look at that at all, or is that more the official plan?
Through the mayor to Councillor Heffernan, I think you're touching upon it right in that There are other initiatives that the municipality is undertaking, like the official plan, where we would have those policies in place that would touch upon affordable housing. And that would, through that process, we would then be able to address this matter. So this is how we would go about accomplishing some of these initiatives. And to answer specifically, it would be our official plan process. And hopefully affordable can be accomplished through diversity of housing stock, and where we would then provide that flexibility and opportunity for a variety of different housing, which could then hopefully enable a larger segment of our resident population to then be in a position to afford and basically purchase housing in Middlesex Center.
Okay, and I just have one more question. What is the difference? I noticed under the safety, what's it called? The public safety. What is the difference between mischief and vandalism? Because I think the chief is quoted as how many cases we've had of mischief, and I'm just thinking they look like vandalism by that. I'm just wondering what the difference is.
Through the chair, I'll look specifically, but off the top of my head, I think vandalism is, we've had recently, unfortunate to report to council, we've had acts of vandalism whereby there's been damage to property and our assets. And I think the difference between mischief and vandalism is where we've been having to replace our assets, versus mischief just causing, maybe compromising our bylaws or being out in the park late at night could be seen as mischief compared to what we've recently encountered, which is unfortunate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for those. Other questions? Oh, I don't see any. Well, so I think this has been a lot of work. A lot of people have contributed a lot of time and discussion and comment to develop the plan. It's nice to see an integrated document, I think, that talks to how communities can move forward and these specific aspects that need to be looked at and addressed. I'm also hoping, though, as I said, I think to somebody when I was speaking about this elsewhere, I'm hoping that there'll be opportunities for some funding too from the government, because some of these projects are not ones that we would normally budget for. But I mean, to the extent that there is opportunity to get that kind of funding, and if we're working together as a county, maybe we can, it'll just work out better because there'll be partnerships and we can identify projects that'll be applied across the whole geographic areas. So if there are no other questions, then we have a motion before us that report CAO 11/2021 regarding community safety and well-being plan be received, and that the community safety and well-being plan appended to report CAO 11/2021 be approved, and further that a copy of the community safety and well-being plan be forwarded to the Minister of the Solicitor General as required by the Police Services Act 1990. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Oh, that was John. Okay, I thought you were, sorry. Councillor Scott and Councillor Heffernan. Is anyone opposed? You think you were adjusting your volume or screen there, John. Sorry about that. Okay, so that is carried. The next item is Public Works and Engineering, item 8.2 with Martin Road and no parking. And I see Rob, there you are.
Yep. Good evening, members of council. So this report for Martin Road is pretty straightforward. It's just a report looking to amend the existing parking and traffic bylaw to implement no parking on the east side of Martin Road. So as you know, Martin Road was reconstructed last year. Although the majority of the funding for that project has come from developers, it is an assumed municipal road. Unlike other locations within subdivisions where those roads remain under the developer's control. So the issue here has been that we've had complaints with the level of building house construction that's ongoing right now. Is just the amount of parking that's happening on the roads, that it has caused some unsafe circumstances and difficulty for vehicles to get through with construction vehicles. So the intent is just to limit the parking to one side of the road during the build out of the houses over the next say a couple of years. And then once the building activity has lessened, we can come back and review. And if we feel necessary at the time, we'll remove the no parking from the east side at that time. That's essentially it. So we're just looking to amend the existing bylaw to implement that. The only cost associated is some staff time and some no parking signs, and we'll just carry that in our existing sign budget within transportation budget.
Okay, thank you for that report. Community safety always comes up in conversations, so it's very timely, I think. Is there any question on this document? I don't see any, so I can call the motion that the report, Public Works and Engineering 19/2021, regarding no parking along Martin Road be received for information, and that the Parking and Traffic Bylaw 2019, number 92, be amended as per Appendix A, appended to the report PWE 19/2021. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? And seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 8.3, which is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. We're going to have Marianne Cabral, our planner, come on. And we also have representatives of the applicant. Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll start with you, Marianne, if you'd like to take the floor and give the report, please.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and good evening. So the municipality did receive an application for a zoning bylaw amendment on the lands known as 10072 Oxbow Drive in Kamoka. The purpose of this report is to make a recommendation to Council on the requested rezoning application, which is to rezone the land from an institutional to a site-specific urban residential third density zone, which would be a UR 3-14 zone, and that's to permit medium density developments such as townhouses. The application was before Council in September as well as in December. And at the December meeting, Council had directed the applicant to consider alternatives for the site, noting concerns with setbacks, screening, preservation of trees, the road network design and density, and as well as to consider other institutional uses for the site instead of the townhouse development as proposed. So the applicant did go back and review their options. However, they came back with a revised plan that reduced some of the density on the site, but it still supported the rezoning application. And we did, staff to go back and forth with the applicant to confirm the zoning for the site. And as such, we recommend, based on the the information and feedback provided by Council and from the public, staff recommend that the zoning be approved with the following site-specific standards, specifically that the use be permitting only townhomes, street townhomes, and a nursing home and retirement home should the owner receive the appropriate funding for those institutional uses. A maximum density of 25 units per hectare, which would be applicable to the townhouse dwelling units. A maximum height of 12 meters, which is consistent with the surrounding urban residential first density zone, which surrounds the property, and increased side yard setback, specifically from the northern and the eastern property lines. Additionally, staff also recommend holding symbols be placed on the property to consider a noise impact assessment due to proximity to the railway, the undertaking of a public site plan review, and as well as an urban design brief to ensure conformity with the Kamoka Kilworth secondary plan. So as such, planning staff do find this application consistent with the PPS, the county and local official plans, and recommend that the application be approved as modified. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All righty. We have to go through first.
Yeah, we can either turn to questions now, or we can have Matt as a big presenter and then get questions.
Yeah, that's what. So we have Matt Campbell and Zbigniew Wlosek here, who are representing the applicant, and they've registered to speak. There's Matt. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. To Marianne, thanks very much for the presentation. To Mayor and Council, we've had a very productive meeting subsequent to our previous time at Council, and we think that we have arrived at a zoning bylaw that everyone is happy with. So we're happy to move forward with the bylaw that's presented before council this evening. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth here, but we've arrived at what is acceptable from all parties. So we're happy to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll look to council now. Would council like to ask any questions or clarification of the report or the applicant? Yes, Councillor Cates.
So we just looked at this, I think last meeting, and there was a lot of feedback and a lot of comments. There was, not the dead end roads, more public parking, some green space, preserving some trees and making some little gardens to sit at. But there was a long list of things that have happened. And so I think that I was expecting that we would have some kind of a plan and drawings and, something new to see before we approved anything. Last time we had all of this input, we accepted the information, and now with basically nothing really changing, we're being asked to approve this. And I'm just concerned that this is now going to take this sort of out of our hands to of what can be done. Are they going to be townhouses? Is it going to be a nursing home? We don't really know.
Mary,
Yeah,
Is it-
Wait.
you've got your hand up, Matt?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could respond to that for a moment, do I have
Yes.
permission to do that?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. To Councillor Cates, the thing to keep in mind here is that we're not asking council to actually approve any specific plan, but rather we're asking council to approve a zoning bylaw, which provides regulations that would allow for a number of different plans, whether it is townhouses arranged in a certain configuration or what is shown on the concept plan now. One of the reasons why we came back to staff and tweaked some of the regulations was that it was going to provide a little bit of flexibility in how this site is actually going to be developed. Now, subsequent to the zoning bylaw amendment process, we have another process that Marion alluded to, is that we have to go through the site plan approval process. And there's a holding zone that's going to be placed on this that requires a public participation meeting for any site plan application. So there's two safeguards for council in that regard. Number one, there will be a public site plan meeting where the public will be afforded their opportunity to look at any final proposal on the site. And again, that is going to be within the regulations that council is looking at making a decision on this evening. And number two, the ultimate approval authority for the actual site plan and the associated development agreement rests with council. So this is definitely not the last time that council will be looking at this particular development. And again, what council has before you tonight is just the regulations that would guide any sort of more detailed site plan approval application.
Add on, Councillor? Yes, do you have an add-on, Councillor?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I think I forgot to say it last time through you, Madam Mayor, to Michael and Marion, I guess. So I do understand that, but are we not leaving the door wide open for this being, I mean, there's being talk too that this could possibly turn into condos and be sold. Are we not leaving the door wide open to it being a whole variety of things, and we're approving it before we know what those what it's going to be?
Marion, do you want to clarify?
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Kate. So we're essentially recommending approval for the zone, but it cannot affect the tenure of the site. So we can't control if it's being rented or being sold off and rented or whatever the case may be through a subdivision or through a condominium process that I believe would be up to the applicant to decide what they would like to do on that site. However, it would require the necessary application. So if they did come back and say that they wanted to go forward with either a plan of subdivision or a condominium, the structure and the form on the site would look almost identical. There are, of course, different standards for a plan of subdivision, for example, but it would still be another application that would have to come back to council for review.
Is that okay? Is that clear, or is there another question?
It is, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I'm curious if anybody else has anything to add.
Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor to Matt, I've got the same concerns as Councillor Cates. If we approve this, they basically can come back with a totally different concept and we can't say no anymore. I'd really like to know what it's going to be before I say yes to approving the bylaw, because I think once we approve this, it can be a lot of things, and I honestly don't think we can stop it. Or not, I don't mean stop it. I mean, we're going to say this is what we're going to do, and that's it. Like, that makes me very nervous. Thank you.
So Marion, do you want to go through the zoning bylaw amendment piece as opposed to the detail of what, just reiterate that maybe, or?
Yeah, so just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier was that this would really create a building envelope or the regulations as Matt had described to permit the units as well as implement some standards. So the applicant could come back with a different design, but it would still need to be held and reviewed to municipal standards. So it could change, it may not, it may look the same, but we do know that there would be a residential use on the site, or it could be a retirement home or a nursing home, as well as the density would also be capped, so we know how many units would be applicable to this site. It could also be reduced as well. I don't know if Matt might be able to describe that a little bit better about what is in store or what's kind of planned, or what the applicant was envisioning for the site.
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Arts. Again, I can understand the conundrum that you're being asked to enter into. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is that the bylaw that's being recommended by staff sets out quite a number of regulations on this particular site. Say, for instance, there's a special provision for a rear yard setback of 9 meters. Now, we would not be able to come back with a plan that, for instance, showed a building that would be closer to the rear yard than 9 meters. I think the point of the discussion is that the actual arrangement of the building within that building envelope that Marion just mentioned is variable. So there could be fewer units. There certainly wouldn't be more units than what the regulation permits, but the actual configuration of those units could be modified. You know, there was the point made about the dead ends. Well, that's something that we can certainly look at through the site plan approval process. And that's one of those things that is subject to change. So the point is, when a site plan approval application is made, it has to be within those regulations that council is looking at approving tonight. And I believe all the different configurations that will be possible on this site are acceptable based on the regulations that we're looking at. I hope that answers your question. If I can be more clear, please let me know if I can help.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, I got one more question. I know the development is proposing the current development is proposing a maximum height of 26 feet, but this zoning is going to allow you up to 39 feet. And I know the residents in the area, they're not going to be happy no matter what you do, but if you go up to 39 feet, it's not going to be a good day. Like, I think the 26 feet is, people will be more agreeable to that, but if we pass this, it could be 39 feet, correct?
Is it the maximum height 26.2 feet?
that was the development, the proposed development says the maximum height of 26.2, but if we
Oh,
pass
I see the change. Yeah,
it-
sorry.
if we- the maximum height for such development is 12 meters or 39.4 feet. That's quite a difference.
I lost it again. Okay. Matt, did you want to speak to that or?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The difference in the height is really reflective of the standard regulations of the implementing zone. I apologize, I have a 3-year-old behind me advocating for dinner time. So just one moment.
It's only on Zoom, right? Yeah. Sorry, I lost it again. I got it back now. I was like, yeah.
My apologies there. The issue with the building height, again, it was a standard regulation, and it's important to keep in mind that if there was the previous notion or comment from the public regarding a nursing home on the east portion of the site. The zoning that would allow for a nursing home, and again, a nursing home is proposed in this zoning, so that could feasibly happen in the future. That maximum height that we're seeing of 12 meters or 39 feet, that would be more reflective of a nursing home proposal, but it also allows the flexibility for, say, a 2-story townhouse, which again, we think is a compatible use. We have 1- and 2-story homes around the site, and 1- and 2-story homes, townhomes, is a comparable building height, and we think that that's appropriate for the site. So again, it speaks to allowing a modest level of flexibility for any proposed site plan application that's going to be brought forward.
Did you have an add-on, Councillor? No?
No.
Okay. Any other clarifications that councillors want to ask about or questions? I'll take Councillor Heffernan and then Councillor Cates.
Through the mayor to, I don't know, Marion, I think. I was a little disappointed because, and maybe this isn't even part of this discussion, maybe we're past that, but because the nursing home is there, the long-term care home, and where this development is going, it does cut off the green space for the residents of the nursing home. And I was just wondering, and this is, like I said, is there, when you have a long-term care home, are there specifics that are required as far as that, or is this totally a different discussion altogether? Like, would you have to provide green space? I mean, this is taking it away from the senior residents that already currently live there. And this lot is going to be completely gone, and it's going to be busier. So I'm just wondering the effect on the nursing home residents. Are we past that discussion, or is there still anything we can do there?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Heffernan, I don't believe that there are any, standards per se for the nursing home or the retirement home to have a certain amount of green space. However, that discussion can still occur, especially through the site plan review for this development. That is a comment that we did receive at the time of the previous public meetings, that there is usage of those lands from the nursing home. So that could be incorporated into a future site plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cates, you had an add-on or a question, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Marion, and probably we've already said this, I just want to say it. So if we were to approve this tonight, so the public site plan review process would be where we and the public would see the design, the layout, all the things about it, and we have an opportunity to say no. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Cates, you'd be able to provide feedback and comments on the proposed site plan, but it would be taken back for staff to consider, and then the agreement would come later on, and that's where council would have the opportunity to either enter into the agreement or refuse it.
Thank you.
Is anyone else wanting to ask? Go ahead, Matt, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a chat that was just popped up from Zvig. I believe he would like to address council if that is appropriate at this time.
It's registered.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to address the councilors about the fact that we are actually down zoning the property. Currently, we can build a 4-story assisted living retirement community on that property, which would adversely affect the residents. They all spoke to that density. We also did an analysis where we took a look at the possibility of constructing an assisted living facility there, and we would have had a 200,000 square foot building, which would allow upwards of 200 occupants in that particular residence. Here we are basically going from the possibility of a 200 unit building or facility down to a maximum of 50 unit on that particular property. Another question that was raised about green space on a long-term care facility next door, there is green space that is being allocated to that long-term care facility. So that particular property stands on its own and has its own space. It has its own landscaping that is generated part of the site plan approval process that went on for that particular project. So you have to keep in mind that we are reducing the density on that particular property that is allowed now. And we do have all of the safeguards that will be built into the zoning bylaw. And I thank you for that.
All righty. Does anyone on council want to comment on anything further? Okay, in that case, we have a resident, Mr. Harvey, who has registered to speak to this application. He's here. Okay. Just one moment and he'll be able to join in. There he is. We have, oh, you're muted, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council and other participants. Just a few points. I've registered concerns previously. Just to pick up on points that councillors Cates and councillors Arts have mentioned in this meeting. I would be uncomfortable. I am deeply uncomfortable with this ambiguity surrounding this. It could be this, it could be that. We've now had one of the planners throw in this further, heinous alternative into the mix. Well, it could be 200. Well, yeah, it could be, but I'm sure you'd get objections based on that as well. So to simply throw that in is somewhat irritating, given where we're at the moment. But just to pick up on the 2 points made by the councillors, I understand that, and thanks to Marion, by the way, for providing a lot of information earlier today. I understand there will be an opportunity further on down the line in order to, raise concerns and possibly object to the plans that are in there. But again, from an outsider looking in, what is being asked for today is approval of a highly ambiguous plan. Okay, there isn't clarity on this. Now, I know there has to be further, hoops to jump through, and we will have the opportunity, I hope, to be involved further down the line. But this makes me deeply uncomfortable. It seems to be, and this was the case in the last meeting, where questions weren't answered on the basis that things might change. This is a problem, a procedural problem. I'd also like to mention as well that given the numbers of properties that are being built around you, I think it is important that council reach out to all residents, some of whom are not in residence at the moment because of the developments around these properties, in order to inform them of what is going on of these plans. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for joining us. I've just been trying to figure out a way of sort of summarizing some of these points. Marion, is it fair to say this is a zoning bylaw amendment? It's not a plan that we're approving. What this bylaw amendment is doing is actually creating a revised rule book based on some of the findings from the public meeting that was held previously and saying that if we take this revised set of heights, rule, densities, distances from backyards and all of those side yard, all those things, this then gives us an understanding, or not us, the proponent, to say, okay, if these are the new rules, this is the quote sandbox we can play in. The money spent to develop a specific plan then is focused on making sure that whatever is suggested falls within those parameters, and they will then spend the money to develop a specific design and specific location and all of those things. That then comes back to the public, and then again, they can see their comments said, we'd like to see these kinds of setbacks, these kinds of heights, and so on. This is now defined. There's a new plan. What do you think of it then? And then council will then have an opportunity to listen to all the input again and decide, does the new plan actually give us a better idea of how those ticks in the boxes were made for the residents' concerns, still meets the proponents' goal of providing a certain kind of housing with certain amenities that they'd like to see for their clients, the people who are going to rent them. Is that, in a very lay terminology, a fair description of why we're here tonight and how that will be used, and then what the process is for the neighborhood and everyone to look at what's going to come out of this again?
To you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's exactly the process and the steps that we would take to move forward. And this is no different from, a new plan of subdivision where we might create blocks for future residential development where we would pre-zone the site and then allow for a site plan to come later on.
Okay. All right. Based on the fact that I don't see additional hands coming up, we do have a motion before us, and that is that zoning bylaw amendment application 11/2020 as amended, filed by Zelinka Preamble Limited on behalf of Omni Healthcare, which is County Terrace, and Omni Healthcare CT, to rezone a portion of the land at 172 Oxbow Drive and land on Oxbow Drive in the description as provided there, to urban residential third density exception 14, which is UR3-14, for medium density residential development be approved, and that holding symbols H3, H6, and H7 apply to the lands zone urban residential third density exception 14, which is UR3-14, to require that a noise impact analysis be prepared and implemented, a public site plan review process occurs, and that an urban design brief be prepared and implemented prior to approval of any development on the lands be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Scott and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And those opposed? Sorry, Councillor Cates, was your hand up before or is it up now? I'll call it again. So those in favor, please. Okay, and opposed? And that motion is carried. Do you have? Oh, sure, yes, I'm in favor.
Are you in favor?
I'm in favor, yes.
Can I say one thing?
No.
Sorry, we're done now,
Oh.
Sue. Sorry, Councillor.
I just wanted to address Matt. Thank you.
Moving on to number 8.4, which is a zoning bylaw amendment for 311 George Street, filed by Gold Leaf Properties. And Marion, will you please give the report on this one as well?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The municipality received the zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands known as 311 George Street in Ilderton. The applicant had also submitted an associated site plan application for this development, which is still currently under review by staff. So the purpose of this report is to make a recommendation on the requested rezoning for the lands from existing use to site-specific urban residential third density zone, or UR 3-15. And this is to accommodate the proposed townhouse and semi-detached units on the property. So this application was before council recently in May. At that meeting, staff received a number of comments and feedback from the public and council, including but not limited to the height of the proposed units based on the zoning standards at the time, the density, secondary access, landscaping, construction, and traffic. A number of these items can generally be addressed through site plan control, but where we were able to do it, we did try to address it through zoning. Staff just want to address that there are ongoing concerns with the lack of the secondary access to Mossywood Walk, the lack of sidewalks and communal areas, as well as landscaping and other on-site features. But generally, these issues can be addressed through site plan control, and it's not affected by the rezoning application. Staff will note that since the public meeting in April, I guess it was, not in May, that the applicant has not made any changes to the site plan since that public meeting. So in light of the previously mentioned and the feedback from public and council, staff recommend that the zoning be approved with the following site-specific standards. The permitted uses would be limited to the semi-detached dwellings and townhouse dwellings. There would be an increased rear yard and side yard setbacks. There would be a maximum height of 12 meters. Again, this is consistent with the surrounding or UR1 zone that surrounds the property, and that a holding symbol be placed on the property, and it would only be removed when a site plan agreement has been entered into with the municipality. So as such, planning staff recommend that the application is consistent with the PPS, the county, and local official plans, and that the application be approved as modified. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. We also have Cindy Reed and Anthony Gubbles, who are here to represent the applicant, and they've registered to speak. Hi there. Would you like to go start off then? You're still on mute. You are on mute, Cindy. We didn't hear you. There we go. That's all right.
Just wanted to say thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for bringing this forth again and for putting all of your time into this. We sincerely appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anything further that Mr. Gubbles would like to add? No. Okay. In that case, I'll turn to Council then to ask any questions on this report clarification. Start with Councillor Heffernan. Go ahead.
Okay, for this one, I just want to confirm that the intent of the applicant is to provide one-story homes, rental units. That's a confirmation. We know that that's coming into it. There's no question that's the deal. That's the plan. Good. I also wondered about, I just want to confirm with Marion that access to the property at the end of George Street, there's an empty field there. Well, it's pasture for horses right now. Is there access? There will continue to be access to that through the end of George Street, because the map kind of indicates that George Street is cut off and goes to the south.
Yes, through Madam Mayor to Councillor Heffernan. So the property currently ends at George Street, but through site plan control, we would ask that the applicant dedicate that land to the municipality so that the other property would have access to George Street or a future extension of George Street, whatever it may be.
Okay, thank you. And okay, and the only other thing I saw in here was in the report, it's suggested that with the potential walkway from Mossywood Walk, it was that it wouldn't benefit, a pedestrian trail wouldn't benefit the development because they would not access future park on Songbird. And I just a comment, I thought was a bit odd because of course they would access the park if they happen to have their grandkids over. you know, that's the first thing you want to do is take your kids to the park. But anyway, whatever, I understand that it was for liability reasons that there was going to be no gate or walkway or something, but I just thought it was an odd comment. But anyway, I'm happy to see that this developer actually intends, there's no ambiguity. We know it's rental units and we know it's for seniors. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments? No, I don't see any. I should just comment that subsequent to the presentation that we had, I did visit the locations in Strathroy, and fortunately it was a nice day and there were people outside, so I had a chance to chat with some of them. And I completely understand now, based on those conversations, about the sense of security that residents in this demographic are looking for, and why there is a suggestion for one exit and entrance. They know their neighbors, they know who's coming and going. There is no passing through of other people who live in the neighborhood. Maybe is one thing. They may get to know those, and actually I shouldn't say that they maybe get to know. It seems to me that the people I spoke with have connections to the communities and go golfing with people who are not even retired at Caradoc Sands and that kind of thing. So they are members of the community. They do get out and about, but there is a sense of safety in living in a context like this. And I remember there were also questions about snout houses. When you see the homes that are built and you take a good look at how they're configured with the snout, these aren't the kind of snout houses where you have a home with a garage that is in front. The garage is incorporated into the building itself, and it really doesn't go on very much further than, I didn't take a measure, but it's like my office, the desk, that distance is what comes out. And people are actually sitting outside and using their front porches too. They commented, we have backyards too. So I guess if they're having someone over for dinner and they want to sit outside, that's what they do. When they want to see their neighbors and wave, or they're waiting to get picked up to go somewhere, they like to sit out front. So I really don't have any questions or concerns about the design. It seems to me it's tried and true. And I think Councillor Heffernan has asked the other pieces that were important. Oh, I guess, yeah, that'll come later. In any event, we also have Mr. Crawford, who is a member of the public, and he's registered to speak, and he is here. I have a nod from our clerks. So here he comes.
Hello there.
Good evening. The floor is yours, Mr. Crawford.
Okay, I'm just starting my video there so you can see my.
Okay, good.
Sorry again about the background. I still haven't figured out how to change that. Marion, I wanted to ask a question to you first off, because I think maybe what you were mentioning might alleviate some of the concerns of some people in the neighborhood with the R3 zoning designation. I know that we had listed a bunch of concerns with respect to maybe modified plans and whatnot. And perhaps, you know, if the R3 designation having buildings that are too tall, even though we're currently looking at a single story unit, which is fantastic, but we're concerned about that sort of change. You mentioned that there would be restrictions, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what those restrictions are.
Sorry, Keith, do you mind repeating the last portion of your question? I just seemed to cut out of my internet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably my internet with a house full of kids. I was wondering what restrictions you were mentioning that would be put in place to ensure that we're staying true to the plan. And I think you also mentioned some additional setbacks. Could you give us some details around that?
Yes, through Madam Mayor to Keith and to the rest of the public. Some of the restrictions that we are incorporating into this is the maximum height. So we did reduce it from what was originally within the zoning standard. So that was reduced to 12 meters, which is consistent with the surrounding area and the development immediately to the south and to the west, I believe. Additionally, there are increased side yard setbacks that do conform to the current plan. These are increased setbacks compared to the standard urban residential third density zone. So we're pulling building blocks away from those property lines and pushing them more into the middle, as well as the applicant did a great job with meeting the rest of the zoning standards in terms of providing a large amenity area per unit. Generally, it's about 45 square meters, but they have exceeded that beyond what was required. Additionally, there are setbacks between the units that were also addressed, and generally the lot coverage of the building units on the property.
Okay, so currently, thank you for that, Marion. Currently, I think in the plan, and I may have this wrong, and Anthony could probably correct me or give us the detail. But last time I looked, I thought that the porches were starting at approximately 14 feet off of the property lines, at least for those of us on the King Street side. With the new setback restrictions, what would that then have to be modified to?
So I'm just going to pull up the proposed zoning.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Okay, so we have recommended an increased side yard setback, specifically from the easterly property line. There is a minimum setback of, I believe it's 4.7 meters or 15 feet, but this is to the habitable portion of the dwelling. I believe the encroachment from the patio or the porch does hang over a little bit, but to the main wall of the dwelling, it would be 4.7 meters.
4.7 meters. So there's no increase there? I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
Yep. So the standard for this area is generally, I believe it's 3 meters setback from the property line for a general UR3 zone. So in this case, we are recommending 4.7 meters.
Okay. So would this require any sort of modification then to the current plan, or does the current plan meet that standard already?
Yep, the current plan meets the standard.
Okay. So we'd still be looking at that 14 feet. Okay. I was hopeful that would then mean that some of those trees would be able to be saved, but that seems unlikely. Okay. The next concern or question I had was just with respect, I know there was a lot of community input about various concerns. Is there any sort of update that you could provide in terms of how those were addressed or considered in the process?
Yes, so we had some very similar concerns, specifically related to that secondary access, the lack of communal spaces, and the height. As much as we could, we tried to address it through the zoning. However, those concerns can be addressed through the site plan review of the development itself, as well as the applicant did also mention at the end of the previous public meeting that they would not be revising the site plans based on some of the comments that we did receive. So we try to work as best as we could with what we have, but they do meet the current municipal standards for a development like this. And I believe Anthony can also chime in as well, as that they have tried to modify their concepts, especially from the time that we did pre-consult with the applicant to now. And this was the best development and layout that they could provide.
Okay. Now, I did have a question about, and I mentioned this earlier to you in the email about the tax base. I'm wondering if this type of development being owned by a corporation in a single owner, whether this is the most beneficial use of that land. I know the neighbors have a lot of concerns about, and myself included, about this not really fitting in with the surrounding neighborhood because it's a very different type of structure, but and development plan and going from R1 to R3. But what is the tax implication of that? If this was actually developed according to the preliminary Sifton plan, for instance, as an example, it doesn't have to be exactly that, but if this were an R1 development, for instance, would the revenue being generated from that be more And what would the difference be between that and this particular development?
I think we need to stick to planning questions. This is not this isn't a question that relates to the planning piece.
Okay, yeah.
We have
No.
examples of that kind of a structure already in the community. So yeah, I'm not sure that that is something that the planning department is able to answer.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I just thought that that's something that should be considered by council as going through the type of development, but I understand. Thank you. And then finally, I do have a question for Ms. Reed and Mr. Gubbles in terms of the plan for fencing with the surrounding neighbors and possibly some green space replacement, as there is a large modification that would be occurring to the adjacent properties. We would welcome some ideas and some communication and consultation on what that might look like with Gold Leaf. If you're open to that, we would love to have those types of discussions with you. And I understand that's not something for council to look at in terms of this, but I would like to offer that and know that the neighbors are very eager, I would say, to discuss these matters with you.
Thank you for
I
your
can answer
comment.
that, Mr. Crawford.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a quick note to that, Mr. Crawford, when I was in around the neighborhood and talking to all the neighbors, we did say that, you know, we want to be good neighbors and we want to do what we can to retain the integrity of the property. So there is plans for landscaping and privacy, but until the site is developed and we kind of know what we're working with in the landscape there, that's when that will be decided. And obviously we'll have the input with the town and their approval and everything to go further on that.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Yeah. Okay, forgive me. Apparently there is another delegation that registered, and Nicole is on the line already. So go ahead with your question.
Hello, Madam Mayor, and thank you, and council, thank you. You know, I'm gonna start off. I'm excited about this development. I think it's going to be a really good fit in the community to have a residence like this with a senior living. I love the idea of the rental units, and I've been by the properties of Gold Leaf. So I could echo what you were saying there, Madam Mayor, about the properties definitely being very well maintained and everything. I'm not going to go into the major concerns that we had talked about in our past council meeting, but the one concern I did want to raise, and I just, it's more for everyone to remember that this is an important part. Sadly, 2 months ago, we had a house fire and we are at 111 King Street. And we talk about the traffic on George and King, and we talk about the congestion that it brings. And everyone thinks that it'll never happen to me. I said that every day. There'll never be a fire in our house. And sure enough, tragedies happen and things happen. We're all safe, we're all well, but we quickly learned how quickly the community responds. We had over 8 emergency vehicles on King Street, with many volunteer cars called. And pardon me if I get emotional, it's kind of the first major time I've spoken about this. We had ambulances, we have OPP. And if you know King and you've driven through King and George, it's a congested area. And when you add in all the volunteer firefighters, my mom couldn't even get down the road to get our kids to take them away to a place. And I just hope that council, as the development comes along, because again, I'm going to reiterate that I'm excited about this kind of development. Please don't take these concerns as a negative thing. But access for the day of those emergencies, I can't put into words how important that is. And also the days after. And I think those are days that people don't even think about. You can see here, I'm not in Elderton. We're in a rental home. It's been over 2 months that a project was supposed to be about 3 weeks. Every day there's anywhere from 6 to 8 trucks at my house with dumpster bins and, you know, electrical people, you name it, they've been at my house. And I just, again, I just want to make sure that there is plenty of access to and from any of the neighboring communities and to that property there. Other than that, I'm not going to go over again all the concerns I did have before, because I think that we're on the right track to get things where they need to be. I hope that we seriously consider the spacing that the emergency crews need.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll turn to
Thank
council.
you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So just before I call the vote, I want to make sure if anyone on council has anything else they'd like to ask or clarify, comment on. Seeing no hands, then the motion before us is that the zoning bylaw amendment application as amended said BA 03/2021 filed by Goldleaf Properties to rezone the land at 311 George Street to urban residential third density exception 15, which is UR 3-15, for medium density residential development be approved, and that the holding symbol H2 be applied to the land zoned urban residential third density exception 15 to require a site plan agreement be entered into with the corporation of the affected lands be approved. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott is, I guess I'll ask, all in favor? Oh, and then are none opposed. Okay, that's passed then. Thank you, that's approved. All righty, we need now to move to the Committee of Adjustment. So I would ask for a motion, a mover to second for a motion that council adjourn its regular meeting in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under Section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended to consider the minor variance applications listed on the April 28th agenda. Oops, that would be June 23rd agenda. So again, I'll just make a couple of remarks about the committee. The members of the public that are participating virtually in this evening's public meetings have previously provided notification to the clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the minor variance applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold values of cooperation, trust, and openness. And the procedure is largely the same as we've had. First of all, I'll ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present a staff report. And then the clerk is going to provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. Then the applicant or their agent will have a chance to speak to that application, to their application. And then those in the public who have registered to participate will be asked for their comments and questions. Please ensure that you state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. And then the committee will ask questions of the applicants and or staff. And then we're going to consider motions regarding the applications that we're hearing tonight. So the first item up is a minor variance file, and I'm going to start with Dan Fitzgerald, our planner, to give an overview of that report. Hello, Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through the chair, and that's all the members of the committee. The purpose and effect of the application for a minor variance, or the first application, is to seek relief from the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling on the subject lands. The applicant is seeking relief from section 5.2.3 of the bylaw, which does state that the construction of a single unit dwelling shall not be permitted except in accordance with the minimum distance separation or MDS1 standard. So as for MDS1, the applicant is requesting a reduced setback of 36.89 meters whereas they do require a minimum setback distance of 81 meters from the existing livestock barn that is located on the abutting property to the north, and that is being 22943 Nairn Road. Hopefully everyone can see that location map there. The subject property is a 2.75 hectare non-conforming agricultural parcel of land on the south side of Nairn Road, north of the intersection at Nairn and Oxbow Drive. The subject land does abut two existing undersized agricultural parcels at 22943 and 22924 Nairn Road, both of which maintain livestock facilities in the format of sheds that include 2 horses each. It is generally surrounded by agricultural lands on all sides. The property is designated agricultural area in the Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in the Middlesex Center official plan, and is zoned agricultural A1 zone in the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as noted, the applicant is requesting permission to reduce the minimum required MDS1 setback related to a neighboring livestock barn. Due to the existence of the facility, a reduction to the MDS1 setback from 81 meters to 36.6 meters is requested. And it is also important to note that the approval of the minor variance would not affect the existing livestock barn, which currently houses 2 horses. The applicant has noted that they are requesting the reduction due to the existing topography on the land, as well as to achieve efficiencies for placement of the residential home on the property. Planning staff did not receive, or sorry, we did receive comments from the neighboring parcel of land, which was issued subsequent to writing the planning report. The comments included concerns about the existing drainage, as well as privacy from the establishment of the dwelling. And it also noted concerns about what was going to occur with the lands to the rear of the house. The neighbor has requested that the applicant add a row of coniferous trees at a length of 150 feet from the front of the property. And this is my understanding has been agreed upon by both parties. As such, committee may consider adding a condition to the decision to require the coniferous tree planting at a minimum depth of 150 meters from the front property line, abutting the lands located along the north interior side. No other comments were received from the public during circulation of the application. As well, no agencies did express any concerns. So as noted in the report, the applicant's requested for minor variance is specific to establishing a house within the required setback distance of an existing operation. As a reduction to the MDS1 standard, it would not affect the existing livestock operation. Planning staff are of the opinion that this proposed minor variance does meet the Planning Act tests. Therefore, that we are recommending that the application be approved. And as I do not anticipate any negative impacts on property owners, subject to the agreed upon condition between the applicant and neighbor. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer questions.
Thank you for that report. I'll turn next to the applicant. Mr. Guest is here and he's registered to speak to the application.
Hello, Madam Mayor and Council. Hi, Dan. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm asking for a reduction in the livestock minimum distance from 80 meters to 36 meters. It just gives me a better area to construct a single-family home. And as far as the Sharon Crawford McKay's concerns is the privacy, I'm in agreement with that. I think there was another concern about how the property will be kept. It will be fully landscaped or under, partially under being used for crops, one or the other. And I had a discussion with her about that, and she seemed to be in agreement with that. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you for that then. Not on the line? Oh, okay. We did have the a member of the public registered to speak, but they're not here. And the clerk has received no additional correspondence or comments. I'll ask the committee then, are there questions about this application? Councillor Heffernan, go ahead.
To the mayor, I just have one question to Dan. So in the event that the abutting properties and their barns, or if they increased their livestock or change their livestock? Is this gonna, once this is done, that's not gonna affect this property, right? Or it's not gonna affect them. Let's say they want to increase their livestock numbers or change to cattle or something. Is that gonna affect them?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Heffernan, it wouldn't per se affect the property to the south because the house is already set back far enough within that minimum distance separation. However, it could potentially impact the property to the north. I would note that based on their current nutrient management plan approval, they are just basically at the minimum numbers. So 2 horses don't mean 5 units. So they could potentially add more horses within their existing permissions and the existing setbacks as approved today. However, they're actually limited by the property even north of them on the adjacent lands. So if they ever wanted to expand, they would have to move the barn back further on the lot to be able to do so, just by sheer fact that the property to the north of them is within, I believe it's 69 meters of their existing livestock facility. So it could potentially impact them, but it's already an impact from the neighbors to the north.
Okay, other questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan, the screening with the trees, that's just an agreement between the 2 parties. That's not a condition in the application. I'm just wondering if that should be a condition in the application in case at some point in time, one of the parties decides at the last minute they don't want to do it, and then it creates a problem. If they both agree to it, I don't see any harm in putting it in as a condition just to make sure it happens.
Yeah, through the chair to Deputy Mayor, I do agree with you. That was kind of something that was added on after the fact, after the planning report was done, through conversations with 2 neighbors. That's why I did just kind of touch on it in my presentation. You know, if committee does want to add that as a condition, I would consider that as an appropriate condition to add in to the decision.
Okay, yeah. I actually had a question about it too. Sorry, I just have to amend the motion if we're doing that screening piece there. That was the clerk advising. I had a question about, did anyone else on the committee want to ask anything before I ask my question? No, no hands? Okay. Before I ask my question? Oh, sorry. I have been informed that we need to deal with that amendment now. For that amendment. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Brennan suggested that we have included language. We need to make an amendment to the motion to reflect that. I need a mover and a seconder to say, yeah, so Deputy Mayor is moving it, and I think Councillor Arts was seconding it. Okay. Okay, Dan, if you could use official planning language to describe the amendment as you would want it written for everyone to hear, then we can vote on it. No pressure.
Give me 1 second there.
Yeah.
So you would have to amend the existing motion. Well, the motion.
Yeah, so there's an additional clause that will say that the parties are, or not the parties.
Yeah, so after the existing recommendation, it'll say granted subject to the following condition, that a coniferous tree line be placed at the northern interior property boundary to a minimum distance of 150 feet from the front lot line.
So it's coming from Nairn west towards the back of the property, and they're 150 feet. Okay, because that was my question. I don't understand the reason for this. Okay. So, yeah, okay. All right, so I have a question about the amendment. These are agricultural properties. They're zoned agricultural. And I'm wondering, privacy screening here, is it for the benefit of Mr. Guest so he doesn't have to look at a barn? But I understood the request came from the other party. They don't want to look at a house. I'm not quite sure why we're putting a condition on a property that's rural where somebody does something, somebody sprays it one time by accident because the one farm is still, I'm just saying, okay, so then if we wait 10 years for some trees to grow and they come down because somebody sprayed something and the wind drifted over and the trees die, I'm sort of confused about who's planting what for what reason. If Mr. Guest is going to be living there and wants privacy, he can plant trees. If the resident on the other side wants trees, they can plant them. I'm just not really clear why we're attaching this to as a condition of an agreement for two property owners here. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, through the chair to Mayor DeVete, that is a very good point. It was the request of the neighbor to the north to add the coniferous screening as a result of privacy for the development of a new house on the south plan.
Yeah. Okay, I'm still not sure why we're making another landowner do that when this lot has been there forever. Well, since the 1960s when they started building on those properties. Okay, so we should call the motion then, right? Oh, Councillor Cates. Sorry, I didn't see your hand, Sue, go ahead.
That's okay to add to you, Madam Mayor, what you're saying. And also, I agree with you, but also why start at the property line? Or like at the road, I'm assuming that means from the road all the way back. I think it's a lot.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on anything here or comment? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify why I mentioned this was both property owners are in agreement and want this apparently through Dan's report as said both property owners wanted it. So I just wanted to clarify that, maybe we should put it in the motion that it should be there when both people are saying, yeah, they want it. That's all. That's the only reason.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Councillor Scott.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I kind of agree with you there too. There's no sense making this more complicated than we have to. If they both agree on it, then they're probably going to do it anyway. And so maybe that would be easier to keep it cleaner going forward, that we don't have, those kind of conditions added to it unless we have to. Thank you.
Okay, so if the other member of the public is not here still, we don't have to worry about that. And there were no additional comments. We have an amended motion before us. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is decide whether or not the amendment is in or not. So we'll vote on that piece and then we'll consider the whole motion. Okay, is everyone clear here? So we're voting on is the amendment. All in favor of adding the wording as Dan outlined about the trees and the distances? All in favor? And opposed? And that motion fails. And now we have a motion before us that minor variance application A11 2021 filed by Terry Guest on behalf of Ivy Homes Limited for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a reduced minimum distance separation for a new single detached dwelling from an existing livestock facility at 36.59 meters, whereas Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw based on MDS calculations would require a minimum of 81 meters to a new single detached dwelling for a property legally described as part of Lot 12, Concession 3 in the municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex be granted. And that the reasons for granting this minor variance application is that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan. The request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Is anyone opposed? I see no one, and that is then carried. There, that's that application. We can now move to number 9.2, which is another application for minor variance. And again, we have Dan as the planner on file.
Through the chair, thanks members of committee. So the purpose and effect of this minor variance application is to seek relief from Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the maximum permissible gross floor area for an accessory building in the urban residential first density or UR1 zone. The applicant is requesting a maximum size for all accessory buildings on the lands of 80.2 square meters or 863 and change square feet, whereas Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 50 square meters or 3% lot coverage, which in this case would be a maximum permissible size due to lot coverage of 50 meters squared. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of one accessory building for the intended purpose of vehicle parking as well as storage. All right, so the subject property is located at 13333 Ilderton Road in Ilderton. It is approximately 0.49 acres in area with a frontage of approximately 28 meters on Ilderton Road. It is located on the south side of Ilderton Road, west of the intersection at Hyde Park in Ilderton Road. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling as well as an existing accessory building, which is currently located in the same position as the new building is proposed. So just for clarification, they would be removing the existing building to build this new accessory building. They are bordered by residential lands to the north and west, institutional and commercial lands to the east, as well as park and recreation zone land to the south. The lands are designated settlement area in the Middlesex County official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and they are zoned an urban residential first density or UR1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. We didn't receive any comments during the public circulation, and no agencies or internal departments had any objections. So staff do note that the intent of the applicant is to replace the existing accessory building with a new larger accessory building for the purpose of storage, as well as to be able to accommodate the parking of 2 vehicles. As identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act for minor variance, as the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan, zoning bylaw, and is appropriate and desirable, and is considered minor in nature. So given the above, I am recommending that this application be approved. Thank you, and available to answer any questions you may have.
All righty, thank you for that report. We have the applicant, Megan Weber is here to speak to the application. Would you like to speak to the proposal, Megan?
Yeah.
We just had Marion, and we've got Marion on my brain. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We were just here to see if there was any concerns. And yeah, like it was pointed out by Mr. Fitzgerald, we are just looking to replace our current garage, which is in very bad shape. So we just want to tear it down and rebuild and just make it a little bit same depth and a little bit wider, just to accommodate so that both of our vehicles can park in the garage and we can fit the lawnmower and snow blower and other storages needed.
Okay, thank you. Let me see now. There are no additional comments that were received, so I can look to council now for questions. Are there any questions or clarifications that you would like to ask about? I don't see any hands. I have a question though. I'm wondering, why are there 2 garage doors when You have the street garage entrance and then one to the backyard.
Oh, so we are replacing the garage door that we currently have. It's just a single car garage. So we'll need to put a double car garage in, and then just for easier access for the riding lawnmower to go into the front yard to cut the grass and then into the backyard. It would just be nice for the garage to open on both sides so we could just drive through to do the back as well.
All right, got it. Okay, if there are no questions then from committee, the motion before us is that the minor variance application filed by Brent and Megan Weber for the relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum size of 80.2 square meters for an accessory building, whereas the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw permits maximum size of the lesser of 50 square meters of gross floor area or 3% of lot coverage. For a property legally described as part of Lot 25, London, Concession 10, and the technical description on the reference plan in the municipality of Middlesex Centre, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 13333 Ilderton Road be granted. And that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A12-2021 is that the request complies with the intent and purpose of our official plan, and it complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Centre's zoning bylaw, and it's minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. All right, thank you for that report then. Oh, you've got another one here, Dan. This is number 9.3. And if you'd like to start that one off for us, we'll get organized here.
Yes, through the chair to members of the committee. Can't get rid of me, I have a few more too. The purpose and effect of the application for minor variance is to seek relief from the Middlesex Centre Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, as it does relate to the maximum lot coverage in the urban residential first density zone, which is the UR1 zone. The applicant is requesting a maximum permitted lot coverage of 40%, whereas the Middlesex Centre Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw does permit a maximum lot coverage of 35% for the main structure, and also 3% is afforded to any additional accessory buildings in the land. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of a single-story home with a covered porch at the front, as well as a covered deck at the rear of the property. So the subject property is a 0.22 acre vacant lot that is located on the south side of Edgewater Boulevard in the Southwood subdivision, which is also located in Kilworth, west of the Thames River. The lands are surrounded by residential zoned lands in the form of single detached dwellings to the north, east, and west, as well as protected forest land to the south. The lands currently consist of a vacant lot in a new subdivision currently under construction. The property is designated settlement area in Middlesex County official plan, residential in Middlesex Centre's official plan, and is zoned urban residential first density, or UR1 zone, in Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and no agencies or internal had any objections. So as noted in the report, the applicant is requesting a minor variance to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling, also a single story on the lands. Based on the proposed layout of the home, which includes a large outdoor covered space, the applicant is requesting the minor variance to permit a total lot coverage of 40% on the lands, inclusive of any future accessory buildings. So planning staff are of the opinion that the requested increased maximum lot coverage would not negatively impact adjacent property owners, and also would not impact any abutting landowners to the rear as it backs onto a protected natural environment. Also, as identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal does meet the 4 Planning Act tests for minor variance, as it's consistent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. It's appropriate and desirable and is considered minor in nature. So given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, subject to the condition that the maximum lot coverage for all structures including any future or accessory buildings, be 40%, and that any future accessory buildings still be subject to the maximum permissible size provisions for accessory buildings in zoning bylaw. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that you may.
Thank you for that report then. We have Bill Graham and Gilles Nadeau who have registered to speak to this. I see Bill Graham is here. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Graham?
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good to go then. There have been no additional comments received by the clerk. I'll ask, are there questions from members of the committee? Oh, there you are. Mr. Graham, would you like to add anything before I ask?
Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Yes, you're clear as a bell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I wasn't too familiar with the process, so I wanted to basically just come on as an observer and answer any questions that you might have. Mr. Deneau will not be attending. Thank you for your time, and I'll be here if there's any questions.
Thank you. Council members, or committee members, pardon me, we are in the Committee of Adjustment. Go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor, I just want the applicant to understand that this 40%, they won't be allowed to build an accessory building now or never because they've used up more than what they're entitled to. And they can't come back because they want to get closer to the lot line, because then it's a major variance and not a minor. So I just want to make sure the applicant understands that. Thank you.
Did you wish to comment, Mr. Graham?
No, I understand that. Thank you.
Okay. Is anyone else wondering about anything in that file? All right, I don't see any additional hands. So the motion before us is that minor variance application A14 2021 filed by Gilles Nadeau on behalf of Southwinds Development Corporation, Inc. for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum permissible lot coverage of 40%, whereas the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a maximum lot coverage of 35% for the property on lot 83, plan 33 M746. In the county, municipality of Middlesex Centre, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 244 Edgewater Boulevard, be granted subject to the following conditions: that all development on the lands, including any future consideration of an accessory building, shall not exceed a maximum permissible size of 40% lot coverage, and that the establishment of any further accessory building is subject to the maximum size permissions as required in section 4.1B1 of the Middlesex Centre zoning bylaw, that being the maximum permissible lot coverage and gross floor area of an accessory building. And further, that the reasons for granting the minor variance application are that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Centre's official plan and our comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents an appropriate development on the subject property. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan, is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is then carried, and we can move on to the next one. Alrighty, this is another minor variance, and we'll start with the planning report, please.
Through the chair to members of the committee. So the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance is to seek relief from Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw, as it does relate to the maximum lot coverage permitted in the urban residential first density zone, or the UR1. The applicant in this case is requesting a maximum permitted lot coverage of 37.5% for the main use, whereas the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a maximum lot coverage of 35% for the main use, and also 3% is afforded to any accessory buildings. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of a two-story home with a covered porch at the front, as well as a covered deck at the rear of the property. So the subject property is approximately 810 square meters in area, with a frontage of, again, approximately 21 meters. It is also located in the Kilworth settlement area on the northeast side of Edgewater Boulevard in the Southwind subdivision. The lands are currently vacant and subject to future development of a single detached dwelling. The lands are surrounded by residential development to the north, east, and south, and future residentially zoned lands to the west. They are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and again are zoned in urban residential first density zone in the zoning bylaw. The applicant is requesting to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage for a single detached dwelling to 37.5%, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 35% for the main use. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and no agencies or departments noted any objections. So as noted in the report, the intent of the applicant is to construct a residential home, which is consistent with the official plan residential designation. The increase in lot coverage is mainly due to an outdoor covered deck space attached to the main dwelling. Staff do believe that the proposed increase in lot coverage would not adversely impact the neighboring properties and are satisfied that a sufficient outdoor amenity space would remain. As noted in the report, planning staff is of the opinion that the minor variance meets the Planning Act tests and does recommend that the minor variance application, which is A15/2021, be. Thank you, and I'm available again to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Our applicant has not is not signed on, and we didn't receive any comments from the clerk, so I can go directly to the committee and ask if anyone has any questions. All right, seeing none, then the motion before us is that the minor variance application A15-2021 filed by Chris Melchers for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum permissible lot coverage for the main use of 37.5%, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a maximum lot coverage of 35% for the property known as 122 Edgewater Boulevard be granted. And the reasons for granting that minor variance include the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan, complies with our comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents an appropriate use on the subject property. Is there a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, and that is carried. Alrighty, moving on to 9.5. And you're up, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Through the chair to members of the committee. So the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance in this case is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it does relate to the maximum permissible height for an accessory building in the agricultural A1 zone. So the applicant is requesting a maximum permitted height of 6.75 meters or 22.1 feet, whereas the bylaw does permit a maximum height of 6.5 meters or 21.3 feet. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of an accessory building in the format of a detached garage with a loft space for storage. So the property is located at 15210 12 Mile Road. It is located on the north side of 12 Mile Road, west of the intersection at 12 Mile and Highbury Ave North. The property has an area of approximately 0.64 hectares and is occupied by a single detached dwelling. The subject lands are located just west of the settlement area of Bryanston. It is bordered by residential lands to the east and west, as well as agricultural lands to the north and south. They are designated agricultural area in Middlesex County's official plan, agricultural in Middlesex Center's official plan, and zoned agricultural A1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as noted, the applicant is requesting permission to exceed the maximum permissible height of an accessory building in the agricultural A1 zone. The existing maximum permissible height is 6.5 meters. At the proposed height of 6.75 meters, the applicant is requesting variance by approximately 0.25 meters. In circulation of the application, planning staff did not receive any comments from surrounding properties. Additionally, internal departments and agencies have not raised any objections to the application. Based on the analysis provided in the planning report, staff is of the opinion that the applicant's proposal does meet the 4 Planning Act tests for minor variance. As is minor in nature, it's appropriate and does meet the general intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. So given the above, planning staff do recommend that application A16/2021 be approved. So thank you, and I'm available again to answer any stuff.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't see the applicant's name here. Yeah, it's not on. He's not on. No. Okay, so Mr. Martin is not here, and we have no comments received by the clerk. Is anyone on committee wanting to ask a question about this? I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that the minor variance application A16/2021 filed by Brian Martin for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a maximum height of 6.75 meters for an accessory building, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum height of 6.5 meters for an accessory building for property in our community, municipally known as 1521 12 Mile Road, be granted. And that the reasons for granting the minor variance for the application is that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of our official plan as well as our comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and it represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Cates. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, then that motion is carried. Thank you. And now we'll have to move to public meetings. All right, we need a motion to go into the planning meeting, and that is that the Committee of Adjustment reconvene as council to move into planning public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, to consider the planning applications listed on our agenda for this evening. And the rules are here basically the same. I'm not sure I need to repeat them. Yeah, we've heard them a number of times now tonight. So let's move to 10.1, and Dan is our planner again. If you'd like to present the report, please.
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. The purpose and effect of this concurrent applications for consent are to establish 3 separate easements for the purposes of servicing. 2 of the easements would be located on 9 Springfield Way for the purpose of one would be a hydro easement, and the second a stormwater outlet pipe in favor of 15 Springfield Way. And one would be located on 15 Springfield Way for the purpose of a sanitary outlet in favor of 9 Springfield. Before I proceed any further, I'm just going to put up the map, kind of get an idea of where we are and what we're referring to. The subject properties are located on the east side of Springfield Way, on the southeast corner of Springfield Way and Glendon Drive, and are municipally addressed 9 Springfield Way and 15 Springfield Way. Existing land uses surrounding the property include a vacant parcel of land zoned existing use to the north, a vacant parcel zoned highway commercial exception C25 to the east, existing residential dwellings in the format of single family homes to the south, as well as a commercial development to the west. The properties do maintain access to Springfield Way through an existing shared access easement that is located on 9 Springfield Way. You can kind of see it there in between 9 Springfield Way and 15 as the kind of void area in the middle. The properties have a combined frontage of approximately 96 meters along Springfield and a combined area of approximately 1.2 hectares. The lands to the south, those being 15 Springfield Way, contains an existing commercial use, which is RSP Motorsports Inc., And the lands to the north, being 9 Springfield, is vacant and is currently subject to site plan review application, SBA 10/2021, where the applicant is proposing a car wash facility as well as a vacant portion of land subject to future. The subject lands are located within a settlement area according to the County of Middlesex official plan, and are designated settlement commercial by Middlesex Center's official plan. The lot to the north, being 9 Springfield, is zoned highway commercial, exception C28 zone, and the lands to the south, being 15 Springfield, is zoned a highway commercial C2 zone. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and we did not receive any objections from agencies or internal departments upon circulation. Planning staff have reviewed the proposed consent applications for private servicing easements and are satisfied that they do meet the intent of the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, as well as the local official plan. So as such, planning staff are recommending that the consent applications to establish the shared access easements, the shared servicing easements be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the planning report. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you for that report. On the agenda, we have noted Joseph Hentz and Steve Hebb are applicants and have registered to speak. I see both gentlemen are here. Did you want to say something, Joseph?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Just no comments from our end. We've looked at the conditions and have no issue with those conditions that are being recommended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No comments have been received by the clerk. I'll turn to the committee. Does anyone want to ask a question or ask for clarification on anything? All right, I don't see any hands. So we have a motion before us that consent applications B14, 15, and 16, 2021, filed by Joseph Hentz on behalf of 26-85719 Ontario Inc. and 1748804 Ontario Inc. in order to establish 3 separate servicing easements legally described in the report in the municipality of Middlesex Centre, County of Middlesex, be granted, and that the consent be 14-15-16/2021 be subject to the conditions noted in the report, and further that the reasons for granting the consent applications as described include that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the proposal conforms to the Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre, that is the county and our Middlesex Centre official plans, and the proposal complies with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? We have Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any, so the motion is carried. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. And we are done now with planning and can move to correspondence. There we go. All right, there are 5 items here. Does anyone want to speak to anything here? All right, if not, just before we move on, we did have a technical glitch, and I was reading the first item just to highlight a worthy accomplishment. Item number 11.1 is the letter of commendation for firefighter Dylan Masterakos that was written by Fire Chief Colin Toth, and I'll just repeat that here for the benefit of the public. On Wednesday, May 26th, firefighter Dylan Masterakos came upon a motor vehicle collision on Highway 23 in the municipality of Lucan-Vidalf. This incident, having just taken place, involved 2 vehicles with 1 injury. The firefighter made contact with the injured occupant, completed a patient and scene assessment, and attempted to extricate the occupant, but could not do so because of the extent of the crash. He continued to make sure that the individual was calm and that it was understood that 911 had been activated. Although fire and EMS were on their way, he committed to staying by the individual's side until help arrived. Concurrently, firefighter Masterakos observed that the front of the vehicle had caught fire and retrieved a fire extinguisher from his truck. Suppressing the flames, he stopped the further progression of the fire from transitioning into the crew cab. Because the firefighter because the firefighter had the presence of mind to conduct a complete scene assessment and continue to monitor the situation, he mitigated further injury to the individual involved in this accident. Firefighter Mastrakos, on behalf of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre, I wish to thank you for your commitment to duty and ongoing dedication in the pursuit of preservation of life. So again, thank you very much for these efforts, and I think everyone was happy for the outcome of this potentially horrible incident. So now we have a motion before us with respect to correspondence, and that is that the correspondence items 12.1 through 12.5 be received as information. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Case. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is then carried and received for information. I'll ask the Deputy Mayor now to present his County Council update from yesterday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We started off the meeting with acknowledgement that the County Clerk, Kathy Bunting, is retiring the end of June after 31 years, and yesterday was her final County Council meeting. Interesting that when she started her career with the county, Alan Johnson was the warden. He is a former Reeve of London Township. So that was interesting to note that he was the warden at the time. So there will be further celebrations when the time is appropriate to celebrate Kathy's time with the county. We started off County Council with a report from the Middlesex London Paramedic Service for 2020. They responded to 90,590 calls throughout the year, traveled 1.9 million kilometers throughout the year. Middlesex Center had 1,313 calls in 2020. There were 310.5 24-hour days lost to offload delays in 2020. That number has decreased significantly in this year so far. There's not near as many offload problems this year as there have been in the past. Code 4 calls decreased by 6.8% over the year to 42,848 calls. 95% or 90% of the Code 4 calls are in the city. 375 staff make up the paramedic service, of which 94% of that are paramedics themselves. The county received $31,928, which was divided equally among the 8 lower tier municipalities, $3,991 each, to support youth in sports and recreation for families that perhaps their children couldn't afford to be there, and that money is to support those. The province, there's money available for different programs. Marymount Family Support, Mutual Aid for Parenting received $10,000. Family Services for Thames Valley, Counseling for Children and Families received $64,900. Southwest Middlesex Can I Play 2 program got $6,500. The same program in Strathroy Caradoc received $10,000. The Middlesex Library Kids Healthy Development through Early Literacy at Home received $2,500, and Children's Aid Society swim passes received $500. We talked about representation at the county level. Any municipality with 5,000 electors has 2 members, 1,500 to 5,000 has 1 member, and anybody below that has no representation. We talked about whether we wanted to change that. It's a long, drawn-out process. It takes 4 years if we want to change stuff, and if we open up things, then other things come into play. So things are being left the same for the next election, which means when the next election happens next year, things will remain the same for the following 4 years. Just on an interest sake, on a weighted vote basis, municipalities have certain votes for weighted vote. We have 13, 7 going to the mayor and 6 to the deputy mayor. Lucan Biddulph has 4, North Middlesex has 5. Town Center has 10, 5 for the deputy, 5 for the mayor. Southwest Middlesex has 5, Strathroy has 17, and Adelaide Metcalf has 3. So if there's a weighted vote within the county, those are the numbers that get added up to decide whether something is passed or not. Human resources are undertaking a number of projects this year: modernization, land ambulance, and local support for people are some of the things they'll be working on. Our insurance for the county has increased some 22%, up to $957,986 with a $25,000 deductible. The cyber insurance has gone up dramatically this year too, because of the cyber attacks that are going on. We talked about the 5-year replacement plan for the county for capital projects at the PWE level, which is about $830,000 per year for replacing trucks and different equipment in that. So that was approved also. We have a safety and wellness plan that the county and lower municipalities are working on, and it has to be into the government, I believe, by the end of this month, and I think that target is going to be met. Housing plans for the county, there seems to be a lack, of course, of rental units and affordable housing. We have the city controls that budget, and the county gets about $125,000 a year to address those issues. And of course, it's not near enough, but we do what we can with that. Costs for the 2021 budget are down, and additional funding from the province, less travel, and virtual meetings are reasons why a lot of the costs so far this year have been down in the county. That's basically the report, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you for that, Deputy. Does anyone have a question before we move on? Nope. Okay. Moving to other business, there are 2 items that need to be highlighted here. First of all, the members of our communities all across Middlesex Centre are invited to join staff for the Community Services Master Plan meetings on Monday night, June 28th. And as well, I would like to invite everyone to come to a Mayor's Update meeting on Monday night, July 12th. Information for both how to access these meetings is on our website. You do need to register for the Community Services meetings, so make sure you don't forget to do that before Monday night if you'd like to attend. And check for details on the website. Everything is there. Community Master and Mayor's meeting. So those are the 2 things there, unless councillors have any other items to add to other business. I don't see any. We can move to bylaws then. The motion before us is that bylaw 2021, number 52, as well as bylaws 2021, 59 through 61 be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover for that and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan, any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried then. And then we need an adjourning motion that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the June 23rd, 2021 Council meeting at 7:50 p.m. And a mover and a seconder. Councillor Heffernan had her hand up, and Councillor Cates, thank you. That is, anyone opposed? No. Okay, we are finished tonight. Good work. There was a lot of planning material